Is Social Security going away? Can we actually rely on Social Security being there when we need it? Whether you're decades away from retiring, or even if you're planning on retiring in the near future, you need to know if Social Security is going to be there for you. You don't want to miss today's episode. Hey everyone, this is John Boyd, host of the Emerging Wealth Podcast. Thanks for joining us and making us a part of your week. Before we dive in, if you're finding value in our content, please give us a like. This helps us reach more listeners and share quality financial education. Next, I'd recommend visiting our website at www.modernwealth.com. Head on over to our Learning Center. It's packed with videos and articles designed to help you optimize your wealth. While you're there, consider subscribing to our newsletter. Thanks again for being with us. Now let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Emerging Wealth Podcast. Today is all about Social Security, and not so much about how it works, but more so if it's actually going to be a reliable source of retirement income for you when you need it. The reality is that Social Security makes up about 40% of the average retiree's retirement income. And depending on how much you maximize Social Security, it could conceivably be much more than that. So bottom line is, Social Security is a big deal. It is a foundational piece of retirement income for most people. And yet, it seems like all you ever hear when it comes to Social Security is that it's going to run out and that the system is bankrupt. So if that's true, and Social Security makes up such a significant part of your average retiree's income strategy, then we're absolutely screwed as a nation, right? I mean, what are we going to do? Here's the reality. Yes, there will likely be big changes to Social Security at some point, and we're going to talk about that during this episode. Yes, if you are someone maybe below the age of 55, you are likely going to need to plan for potential changes to Social Security to your retirement plan. However, the Social Security system itself, while it will likely go through changes, I don't believe will fully go away. So let's dive into what's going on. One of the most pervasive myths surrounding Social Security is that it's on the brink of collapse, and that's going to leave a lot of retirees in financial ruin. But to understand where this myth is coming from, it's important to clarify and understand what is even at risk. Because the reality is that it's not necessarily Social Security itself that is at risk, but rather the Social Security Trust Fund that faces projected challenges. So in order to understand how this trust fund works, it's important to understand kind of the logistics of how Social Security operates. Social Security operates as a pay-as-you-go system where current workers pay payroll taxes into the system, and then these funds are immediately used to pay Social Security benefits. These benefits go to people like retirees, surviving spouses, and individuals on Social Security disability. So any surplus on any given year that isn't paid out to people receiving benefits is just stashed away in this Social Security Trust Fund. So the trust fund serves as a reserve for the Social Security system. It's a backstop. As of 2023, the trust fund holds nearly $3 trillion in assets. I mean, that's a ton of money. And on top of that, the money within this trust generates interest. Now, the idea behind this trust is that it's available when there's a deficit in the annual inflows compared to outflows. So again, to help you digest this better, historically, every year, when you factor the billions of dollars in payroll taxes that are paid by American workers every year, even though that money had to go out the door right away to pay Social Security benefits, there's historically been a surplus. There's always been extra money that has been able to go into the Social Security Trust. However, starting in 2021, Social Security had to start tapping that trust. They had to start using money within it to cover Social Security benefits. So imagine there's $1 trillion in payroll taxes coming in every year, but there's $1.1 trillion in claims from Social Security. That's a $100 billion shortfall, and it's being covered by this almost $3 trillion Social Security trust. And when you think about it, this makes sense, right? I mean, the baby boomer generation is retiring, our population is getting older, and hence more people are claiming Social Security than paying into it. Current projections as of 2023 indicate that the Social Security Trust Fund might be fully depleted by around 2034 if no changes are made to the system. However, this is just a projection, and there's no firm, hard set date on any of this. So if the trust runs out, does that mean Social Security is going away? The answer to that is no, because remember, the trust only supplemented benefits. The majority of benefits are still being covered by payroll taxes that are coming in. Now, if this eventually comes to fruition, which it looks like it very likely will happen, there's obviously going to have to be changes made to Social Security, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. For example, one of those changes that you can see online in the Social Security Trustees Report is a proposal to potentially have benefits reduced by 25%. So if somebody's receiving $1,000 in Social Security benefits every month, their benefits would be cut down to $750 every month, right? I mean, that's an idea being floated out there, as well as lots of other ideas. So you get the idea. There's no doubt about it. There's likely going to be changes to Social Security at some point. It's very unlikely that it's going to be phased out or go away, but there's likely going to be big changes that are going to happen. And it may not be for the next couple of years, but at some point during our lifetimes in the next, decade or two, there will likely be changes that will start to happen. But the reality is that there's a lot of unknowns. We don't know what exactly these changes are going to be. And that's scary for a lot of people because the reality is that Social Security is a core piece of American retirement income. So what can you do today to perhaps protect yourself from the very likely changes that are going to come to Social Security? So one of the very popular proposed changes that is potentially coming to Social Security is full retirement age being adjusted. One of the methods of helping reduce how many people are claiming benefits is this push to push the full retirement age past 67. So if you're not familiar with this, if you are born after 1960, which is about 90% of our listeners, then your full retirement age is 67. This means that you can get your full Social Security benefit at 67. You can technically claim it as soon as 62, but you would see a pretty significant benefit reduction. So generally speaking, the name of the game when it comes to Social Security planning is at a very minimum, wait until full retirement age to take out your benefit. And if you can wait until 70, because every year you wait past full retirement age, you get roughly an 8% increase in your benefit. That would be the most optimal way to play it. So if we fast forward in time, where the potential full retirement age is now bumped from 67 to 69, that's even more time that you might need to supplement your retirement income from your own savings or from other streams of income. So if you're listening to this and you think saving for retirement is cliche, or you really just haven't made it a huge priority, it's kind of just something you kind of do, but you haven't thought about how you're optimizing it, you should think about it more. Because the reality is that you likely are going to really need to supplement from your own savings more so than other generations. And that should really be the focus. That should be the expectation, right? When I've worked with, older folks, Social Security is that kind of foundational anchor piece that there's a lot of planning done for. But if you're someone maybe 40 years old, yes, Social Security will likely be there in some way, but you really got to be prioritizing how is your own personal wealth buckets going to be there to help bridge your retirement gap. One of the other proposed changes to Social Security that is being floated around is making Social Security more of a means-tested system. This would mean that high earners in retirement could see their Social Security reduced or taken away entirely. So if you got a big old pre-tax 401k and are drawing off of it, all that taxation that you are generating from drawing down your pre-tax assets in the future could potentially impact how much Social Security benefits you get. With all this being said, this is just speculation. Again, we don't know what changes are going to come down the road to taxes or Social Security. But one thing that we can control is our ability to take advantage of accounts like Roth IRAs, like Roth 401ks, like backdoor Roth strategies, even an HSA, right? Because the reality is that increasing your tax-free wealth buckets and allowing yourself the ability to generate tax-free income in the future is going to be an extremely powerful tool in your tool belt. So in conclusion, is Social Security going away for good? No, absolutely not. Next time your Fox News obsessed family member wants to talk about how politicians are trying to get rid of Social Security, you can refer them to this episode because they're likely confusing the Social Security trust fund being tapped and Social Security itself. Those are two different issues. Now, with all that being said, as you've heard during this episode, there will likely be changes to Social Security, but we don't know what those changes are going to be. And because we don't necessarily know what those changes are going to be, I mean, we could certainly speculate based on what we know. The reality is putting your retirement income strategy into your own hands is going to be the best move. This is why we talk about taking advantage of the mega backdoor Roth. This is why we talk about the powers of having a 3-bucket approach to retirement and incorporating a taxable brokerage account to complement your tax-free and tax-deferred bucket. This is why we talk about investing and being disciplined for the long term, because the reality is that you are going to likely need to live off your own savings more so than other generations and current retirees. Social Security will likely play some role in your retirement strategy, but you're ultimately going to need to be creative and disciplined with how you build your own retirement wealth nest egg. As a reminder, everything on today's podcast was general education only and not deemed to be specific investment, tax, or legal advice. If you need specific guidance, you can reach out to us at www.modernwealth.com. That's modern spelled with no vowels, wealth.com. It's been a lot of fun, guys, and I'll see you next time.